What's up, everybody? First take in the house. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. And guess who's in the building? Jay Williams.
I'm
you know
here.
What that means? So good to have you.
I'm like on 2 hours sleep.
How you feeling,
so
right?
I'm struggling, but it's okay.
You've been on our TVs all weekend.
If you know I'm struggling before our 24-hour marathon, that's a problem.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Well,
that's going to be fun.
Hide it. Don't
I got you. I'm bringing energy right now. Trust me.
You will, always. So as Jay just alluded to, it's time to fill out those brackets. We got you guys covered with that. Also, Alshon Jeffrey is joining us. He'll tell us why he decided to join those Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let's get into the March Madness. Defending national champion Villanova is the #1 seed overall for the third time in school history. The Wildcats share the East region of the bracket with #2 Duke, who are the current favorites to win it all. Kansas, North Carolina, Gonzaga also named #1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. Stephen A., who you got making your Final Four?
Pull it out.
Bust out the bracket, baby.
You know, first of all, let me say, it's just an opinion. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I watched some college basketball this year, but certainly not like my man to my right, the one and only Jay Williams, former National College Player of the Year, by the way. But let me just throw out my little
Okay, I'm ready for it.
I'm taking notes.
expertise.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Just stir the pot expertise. I like it.
Let's go with the East. You see, you got the Villanova Wildcats as the #1 seed with Duke at #2. I do tend to agree with y'all. I can't see how Duke is not going to come out of the East. This boy Tatum is on another level. He's special, okay? And I just think with the adversity that they had to deal with throughout this year, they've shown me a lot. I'm going to give them their props where it's due. They're the #2 seed in the East. I'm going to pick Duke to come out of that region. I'm going to go to the West right here. Everybody caught up in Gonzaga. Now, I must confess to you that I'm tempted to pick St. Mary's to knock off Arizona.
Don't drink that Kool-Aid. Don't drink that Kool-Aid.
But I have refrained from drinking Kool-Aid over the last few years. I mean, I had to cut down, get my sugar levels right and all of that stuff. Therefore, I'm not going to go that far. I think that it'll be a tight game, but Arizona will find a way to pull it out. I believe they will ultimately beat Gonzaga. They will come out of the West. So I got Duke in the East. I got Arizona in the West. Now let's get to the Midwest here. We got Kansas as the #1 seed, Louisville as the #2 seed. I see everybody getting caught up in that. I like that, but to me, I'm a Bill Self kind of guy. And Mason is no joke either. I think that experience Kansas, I'm going to roll with Kansas to come out of the Midwest. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't even need to look at the South bracket. I'm rolling with the Tar Heels, North Carolina. That's what I'm rolling with. So I got Duke, Arizona, Kansas, and I got North Carolina.
UNC.
I will reveal who will win the national championship a little bit later on in the show. That is my Final Four.
I took notes. Max, who you got?
It's a real interesting year for this, especially when, like, if you look for a Cinderella, the closest thing I can come up with is like UCLA as a Cinderella.
Real Cinderella,
right? And I think I'll take them, actually. I think I'll take UCLA to get past UNC, but otherwise, Arizona, Duke, Louisville.
Even that gauntlet for UCLA, they would have to go through. Think about this game. 2 games in 3 days. They would have to go through Kentucky, then North Carolina, then potentially Kansas, then the winner of Duke, Arizona.
You know, Lonzo Ball is a special kind of player, and unlike Fultz, and I know, listen, he didn't have anything around him, but I don't ever see Lonzo Ball go away in a game. He's always making an impact somehow, and the main thing for UCLA is, as the season wore on, their defense got much, much better. It got tournament-worthy, in my opinion. Early on, he said, that's not a defense. The defense isn't good enough. As the season wore on, okay, you know what? Maybe it's just good enough. And what kind of a bracket would be if you didn't have some kind of an upset, even though picking UCLA is the Cinderella is ridiculous.
He's talking a LeVar Ball.
I want to talk about Duke, right? I want to talk about Duke for a second. What bothers me so much about this is going into the season, it's like, okay, they're stacked, right? And then it's like, oh, you know what, maybe not. They're having a lot of problems, the whole thing, and this is not going to be there, and then it is. Of course, right at the right time, naturally, everything comes together. A mix of young guys and returning players, and even the coach is rested. The best player in the country, it looks like. I mean, you know, it feels unfair that they come in loaded, and you're like, aha, it's not going to work. No, yeah, it's going to work out for them just fine. And Duke feels like they're everybody's pick right now for good reason.
You have the Grayson Allen tripping scandal that we've obviously all talked about. I've made a couple of strong claims on that. I thought he should have been suspended.
You said 5 games,
yep,
right?
5 games. Coach
So did
K
I agree with you.
suspended him indefinitely for
Yep.
1 game. That was controversial. We got that. They've dealt with a plethora of injuries. Jason Tatum, who is the best ISO player in the nation, reminds me very much of a young Paul Pierce, was hurt. Harry Giles, who potentially was the first pick in the draft, who had multiple injuries before he even got to Duke. I thought he shouldn't have played. I thought he should have worked out with a Joe Abunazar or Tim Grover, just trained the whole year, get ready for the draft. His stock has dropped off, but he's came back strong as of late. And you have Luke Kennard, potentially, you know,
He can shoot.
one of the top shooters in the nation. Reminds you of J.J. Redick, but actually can do more things with the ball. Things are coming together. All that being said in the East, let me tell you about my issue with the NCAA and the committee, okay? If they're going to seed it, then seed it. So there's a thing called the S-curve. Here's the S-curve right here. So their top 8 teams in the nation, according to the S-curve: Villanova, Kansas, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Kentucky, Arizona, Duke, and Louisville. So if you're going to seed it the right way, don't hose Villanova. If Villanova's the #1 overall seed, how are you going to put Duke,
unreal.
the 7th seed, in their bracket? It should have been Louisville. And Louisville should have been in the bracket with Villanova.
Right.
So if you're doing it geographically, then say that. Geographically,
Villanova's got the toughest sledding, right? Considering they're #1 overall.
I think Villanova in the East and the Midwest, yes. But the thing is, now you're going to make Villanova, yes, they are in Philly, but you're going to make them play that Elite 8 game if they get to that Elite 8 against Duke in Madison Square Garden, which is Cameron Indoor Stadium North. Okay, that's where all the Duke alumni are. They sell out arenas. They play all their road games. Pretty much, Duke doesn't really play a lot of road games. And if they do play a road game, they're playing at Madison Square Garden. It's interesting moving along. That being said, I do have Duke coming out of the East. I think you guys are both right. We agree on all of our picks. It's interesting across the board. I have Zona beating Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
You're looking over his shoulder when he's filling out his bracket.
Not at all, but it would seem that way. It would seem that way, consider how skillful I am at this stuff. But go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I have Zona beating Gonzaga. Since they played already this season once. Zaga beat Arizona, but without 2 of their best players, Alonzo Trier, who's one of the top players in the nation, and Parker Jackson Cartwright. I have Zona, I have KU. Hard to go against a team that's won 13 consecutive Big 12 regular season titles. And granted, they lost in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, but they lost without a top 5 draft pick in Josh Jackson, who's a name you guys both be talking a lot about, one of the best 2-way players in college basketball right now.
Special.
Like, the Lakers can use him right now. And then I'll go down with North Carolina. I have North Carolina beating UCLA just because I don't know if UCLA could handle that gauntlet. Kentucky's a hot team, too, now with John Calipari, but that would be one hell of a game to watch, UCLA versus Kentucky. I think the winner of that game, unfortunately, will have to play 2 games in 3 days and bounce back to play against North Carolina. And I think North Carolina.
How did Carolina lose to Duke in the ACC semifinal?
You're going to like this conversation. So I was talking to Kenny Smith the other day, and we were talking about Justin Jackson, who's a star player from North Carolina.
Yes.
He's an ACC Player of the Year. He compared him to Tayshaun Prince. Now, Tayshaun Prince is a great player. He's made a lot of money in the league. But when you think about Tayshaun Prince, you think more about that beta male. You don't think about that alpha male.
3-and-D guy.
That guy who's going to come and drop 40 on you, that says, give me the ball, or is able to say, if we're all a team, pull Max by the tie and say, give me the damn ball, I need the ball right now. That's who he reminds me of a little bit, and I think that's going to be a question for North Carolina, because at times it seems like North Carolina works their way into ball games. They don't come out and put their foot right in your throat and say, we're North Carolina, we're going to beat you by 50. And we saw them do that multiple games in the ACC tournament, and that's how Duke was able to beat them.
What about the motivation from losing the national championship game on a last-second shot by Chris Jenkins? How about, how does that feed into the equation when we're talking about Carolina and the level of zest and momentum and fervor they're going to bring to the table simply because they're highly motivated from that championship loss?
I thought they would have been motivated. I think this team is motivated. You're still going to go through ups and downs of the season. I think it's actually a scary thing that they lost in the semifinals of the ACC tournament. Because the one thing you worry about North Carolina, are they going to play angry? Because if that team plays angry, they should win a championship. There's nobody better than North Carolina in the nation when they play angry. But sometimes you get that lethargic North Carolina team that feels like they may just beat you based upon their athletic talent.
Jay, why do you think Villanova got hosed? Like, Wisconsin's easily the best 8 seed. Then they'd have to deal with either Florida or Virginia. And then Duke. You're number one, and you're the number one overall seed, and you're the defending champs, and they put you in murderer's row.
That's been my issue with the committee for a while now. If you're like I said, if you're going to seed it, then just seed it. And look, if you match up against another team that happens to be in your same conference, who cares if you play 4 times in one season? That's the way the seeding works. Go by the numbers. If you're not, then just at least come out and say, hey, geographically, we want this to work out better so we can do what? Sell more tickets. Make more money, because it's about the student athletes, not about the money makers.
It always comes down to the dollars. Jay, you're not the only one with an issue here with the committee. So one of the teams that didn't make it, of course, is Syracuse. And our very own Dick Vitale did not hold back with his ire towards the committee on that subject. Take a listen.
I cannot understand how you can go 10-8 in the ACC, the toughest conference of all, beat 3 teams that were rated in the top 10 in America. Yes, I know they got blown out by St. John's. I know they got beat by Boston College. I know they lost to Georgetown. 3 teams that struggled all year. But let me tell you, you beat 3 teams from that conference who are in the top 10 at one time. Come on now. They belong.